Hello folks, and welcome to our video today on managing the risk of residential roof inspection. The goals of this video is to discuss the virtues of risk management strategy specific to the safety needs of residential roofing inspection industries. To accomplish this, we will introduce the distinctions between a qualified, competent, and authorized person as defined by both OSHA and ANSI, and how through the use of these three titles, we can develop a company-specific, comprehensive fall protection program. We begin by recognizing the fact that residential construction practice has been trending towards aggressive roofing structures that just don't accommodate foot traffic access like they used to a couple of decades ago. This trend has produced a variety of negative consequences for those of us with access needs, and some pretty big players are starting to take notice. Believe it or not, risk management is not a new phenomenon. In fact, it's been around for quite some time now. When it comes to risk, it's important to recognize that we have the choice to avoid, reduce, transfer, or accept. Good risk management strategy is not spontaneous. It requires thought, research, and planning, or at very least, some outside assistance, which is exactly what our video is all about. Avoiding the risk of a fall can be accomplished in a number of different ways. Home inspectors can simply opt out of their roof inspection if it poses any physical threat to their safety. Other industries are not so lucky, therefore they may require the services of a drone, man lift, or satellite imagery to fulfill the requirements of their customers' expectations. Risk reduction is a strategy capable of the greatest returns on your investment. Knowing which tools to both incorporate and avoid will provide huge dividends over a career spanning multiple decades and thousands of inspections. Many insurance carriers and individuals today are choosing to transfer the risk of their inspections to other service providers, who in turn transfer the risk to LLCs that shield them from costly compliance to OSHA regulations and/or citations. Accepting the risk as it stands is no joke. It begins with understanding that over 1/3 of all workplace fatalities involve falls from roofs and ladders. Gravity does not care about your policies of inclusivity or political correctness. A major reason why many large companies are opting to transfer their risk to a third party in lieu of the political reorg required for an acceptance strategy. Accepting the risk associated with residential roof inspection is not for everyone. It is a strategy that tends to favor those with certain physical and psychological attributes. Companies that force all of their employees into an acceptance strategy, even with the best of training, may reduce the risk of injuries for some while increasing the risk for those who should have never been chosen for the job to begin with. The very best risk management strategies are those that incorporate a full, comprehensive fall protection program. Sound protocol on how those who safeguard your risk should be selected, trained, equipped, and managed for optimal results. Next up, we should recognize the difference between safety regulation and safety standards here in North America. OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, is the law. It has established fall protection compliance standards for roof inspectors under Regulation 1910. Under OSHA Fall Protection Regulation, you will find several different ways to provide for your workers' safety and maintain legal compliance. These would include fall restraint systems, fall arrest systems, work positioning systems, netting, and guardrails. However, you will find nothing specific to the use of a rope access system. This might seem to present a problem, considering that rope access is one of the most complete means for access of the residential setting, but OSHA openly recognizes that they are incapable of delivering safety regulation standards for every workplace setting. Therefore, Deviations from standard fall protection are permitted if developed and prescribed by a qualified person. In fact, under the General Duty Clause, it is the employer's responsibility to seek out and obtain the information on how to protect their employees when no safety standard is in existence. ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, now recognizes rope access standards under the category of their Z359.1 fall protection standards. A major win for those with safe access needs that are not provided for by standard forms of fall protection practice. ANSI also serves as a good resource for developing your own fall protection strategy. This information can be found under their Comprehensive Fall Protection Guide Z359.2. Now let's introduce three distinctly different titles of people who exist within a risk-managed comprehensive fall protection program. We will begin with a qualified person as defined by OSHA. This person is a little bit like a doctor with respect to their ability to legally prescribe solutions for avoiding risk in a unique workplace setting where no safe standard for practice is available. ANSI recognizes the title of a qualified person as well. Their definition is similar to that of OSHA, which states an individual who, by possession of approved professional standing, recognized degree, extent of knowledge, training, and experience in the field of fall protection and rescue, is capable of designing, analyzing, evaluating, and specifying fall protection and rescue systems to the extent required by these standards. Their prescription for maintaining a safe workplace environment begins with understanding the companies or individuals they serve. From here, they can develop a detailed plan to avoid, reduce, transfer, and/or accept the risk that they were hired to control. Unfortunately, qualified people do not come with an official stamp of approval from OSHA or ANSI, so choose wisely because the advice you get is only as good as the person that you hire. One clear example of this can be found within the standard practice of several well-known insurance carriers and IA companies who promote the use of sport climbing equipment for their employees. This form of fall protection is not compliant with OSHA, ANSI, or even the equipment manufacturer's recommendations for hands-free use in a workplace setting. Remember, folks, the use of any item for something other than its intended purpose can lead to disastrous consequences. Could use is not necessarily a good indicator of should use. In other words, we could use sport climbing equipment for the purpose of fall protection, just as we could use a plastic grocery sack to transport gasoline. However, the consequence for even the slightest error would not be considered acceptable by any person, qualified or not. Okay, now that we've covered the title and responsibilities of a qualified person, let's now do the same for a competent person, which ANSI defines as an individual designated by the employer to be responsible for the immediate supervision, implementation, and monitoring of the employer's managed fall protection program, who, through training and knowledge, is capable of identifying, evaluating, and addressing existing and potential fall hazards, and who has the employer's authority to take prompt corrective action with regards to such hazards. In short, their responsibilities are to serve as the company's designated representative who will orchestrate, maintain, and manage the employer's comprehensive fall protection program. Some of their responsibilities would include employee selection and training, development of work plans that outline hazards and the means for avoiding them, yearly equipment inspections, field assistance, and ensuring skills retention through regular evaluations. Now let's transition to the virtues of an authorized person, who's defined as an individual who has the approval of their employer to perform duties at a location where they will be exposed to high-angle fall hazards. Okay, so careful selection is probably the most critical first step to building your authorized workforce. Keep in mind that acrophobia, or the fear of heights, is the most predominant of irrational fears amongst humans, so try to choose those most comfortable and capable of this line of work. Some of the best examples of this date back to the iron workers of the early 1900s, who were selected based on their inherent raw abilities for comfort and control while working at height. It was a process that helped to manage the risk of falls. Unfortunately for these workers, they still lost around 1 human life per 10 floors of steel they erected because it did not take into consideration their needs for training and personal protection equipment. Now that we have identified the differences between an authorized, competent, and qualified person, let's talk about building your company-specific risk management plan. In this first step, you'll need to identify your competent person, that employee who is best suited to orchestrating and maintaining your company's fall protection program. Step 2 requires the expertise of a qualified person who potentially could be found in-house, but is most commonly contractually acquired for their consulting services. Step 3 would be to develop a work plan, which represents a complete thought on your company's risk management strategy. Once it is written, it will be discussed with your workers and then signed by each employee to symbolize solidarity and commitment to comply. Step 4 will overlap slightly with Step 3 and Step 5, so let's just say that around this time, some decisions will need to be made with respect to the acquisition of training and equipment needed to carry out all the details of your work plan. Step 5 is straight up assessment of your available workers to determine who is most worthy of the title and expenditures of an authorized person. Some of this will undoubtedly need to take place during the actual training process, where raw abilities and limitations will become more clearly pronounced. Step 6 is the ongoing process of training your workers, providing for their equipment needs, enforcing their compliance to the work plan, and evaluating individual skills as well as overall performance of your risk management strategy. Our final thought before we close is to recognize the fact that without incentives, the attrition rate amongst your authorized workforce will be excessively high. Essentially, there is no benefit for remaining in a job that nobody else wants. Time and time again, we have learned that companies who do not adequately reward those willing to accept their risk will ultimately destroy the means for managing their risk. If you or your company has an interest in developing a safe access plan, then please feel free to contact us for assistance. Our training center is located approximately 45 minutes north of Houston, between the towns of Conroe and Montgomery. If you'd like to learn more about the services we provide, you can visit our website at realityropeaccess.com. We thank you for watching and welcome your feedback, so please take the time to like, comment, and subscribe.